Okay, so today we are going to talk about power posts, right? A lot of people think, well, Laurel hates written posts. Laurel just does video. That's not true. But there are reasons as to why I prefer video to written post. And the big thing is actually because of a recent change. I don't know if a lot of you guys have actually noticed, but a lot of retargeting audiences have seemed to disappear from a lot of people's ads managers. And the reason being is that as all of these browsers, right, it all started with Apple in 2021, right? The iOS update happened and privacy issues. And all of a sudden, iOS started asking people whether or not they wanted to be tracked. And a lot of people said no, right? And so there was the first wave of some of our retargeting audiences going away. But now more browsers are rolling it out, like Firefox, Google Chrome. As a matter of fact, 9 times out of 10, when I look at a client's sales page and I'm looking at the different phases of the funnel, the retargeting cookies on each page are not being set. And this is because a lot of the browsers are actually deleting those cookies that are setting the retargeting. And so the reason that I love video is because video is a first party action, whereas the Pixel's third party. And so a lot of the browsers are getting rid of like the third party data. And so when you're visiting sites, they're actually deleting the cookies. And so that's causing a huge problem. Now, you can retarget people who are engaging with these power posts that we're going to go over today, but just know you can't select which power post that they actually engaged with. You can only select engaged with the page in the last X amount of days, right? So that's one of the biggest issues that I have with written posts, but are they super duper effective? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you guys a post that I did not too long ago. And this so far has brought in a little over $56,000 in revenue. And this was posted on October 14th in 2024. Okay. Now I'm going to go over this post and then we're going to actually go through all of the different parts of it and why it works so well and how you can actually implement this inside your business. Okay. So is anyone here, do you guys remember this post whenever I posted it? How many of you guys, like so many people engaged with it? We had, let's see, a shit ton of people who 70, yeah, a little over 76, 70 something comments on this. And I enrolled 11 people into Lean on Laurel alone, some paying the 3K up front, some paying the $1,500 a month. And some actually, one person actually went into Success Circle, the program that Nick Peterson and I run together. So over a little over 56,000 in revenue since October 14th. And so I'm going to show you guys how I actually put these together. And a lot of this stuff that we're going to go over today is going to be a refresh, because one of the things that you're going to find is that this is a very similar structure to one of my favorite strategies that I know that you guys all know and love, which is the power content strategy. There's a reason that I call this a power post, but let's just kind of go over this and then we'll take a look at it. So here's what the post says. Are ads really the issue? Maybe, maybe not. When Dee came to me, she was spending $6,300 a month in ad spend and making roughly $11,000 each month. For context, she was running ads to a VSL for a fitness program. She didn't really have a warm audience yet. When I did a funnel audit, her numbers were pretty average over the last 5 months. Her cost per lead was $23. Her landing page conversion was 37%. Her VSL watch rate, 15%. Book a call, 8%. Close rate, 66%. Here's the hard numbers on average so you can get a clearer picture. 260 leads per month coming in. Only 39-ish people were hitting play on the VSL. Yikes, right? 3 of which booked a call, and she closed 2. Most people were telling her that in order to make more, she needed to spend more on ads, but more than half her profits were going to ad spend, and having 5K a month to live on isn't ideal, right? We're not even counting taxes. When I looked at her numbers above, I saw a lever to pull. She's great at what a lot of others aren't so great at, selling her offer. The part that she wasn't so great at was the video content. If I have her remove the video friction, more people could see her offer. In order to get the major cash flow she needs right now, I need help. I need to help her get volume. I need to get more people to see her offer. She's a great closer, and that's an asset. I also removed another friction point. Let me let these people in. One of them is a Success Circle member, so I wanted to make sure. I also removed another friction point, the lander, so that 100% of her traffic could see her offer, not just the 37% of her paid traffic. Here's what we did, right? And then I go on to tell exactly what we did and then the numbers after. I said, anyone you hire to help with marketing has to meet you where you are right now. Most of you guys aren't running the right funnel for your needs or budget. Want me to tag team your ads and funnel with you? I'll be doing my last enrollment into Lean on Laurel here soon. And so I'm talking to everyone who wants in this week. What are some of the things that you noticed about this post? What are some of the things that as I was reading this or as you were reading it, what were some of the stuff that you noticed? Yep, before and after, highly specific, data, technical expertise demonstrated, relatable, brings clarity to the problem and how to solve it, transformation. I saw a lever to pull, yes. Case study numbers, can relate to specifics of ad spend and how much to live on. Start where she is now. Awesome. You guys are seeing all of the different elements that made this such a great post. Right off the top, a lot of you probably who read this, how many of you guys, just show of hands or show of chat in the chat, hit 1 if this post actually resonated with you? Awesome. I'm seeing a lot of 1s. What made this post resonate with you automatically? And by the way, Mandy, cheers. I'm being fancy today. Numbers, cash flow, seeing the problem of why she wasn't converting. She had strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. So the story. Okay, trust. So few that watch the VSL in your different approach. It feels like a real world experience. That's huge, what Dana just said. It feels like a real world experience. Finding the biggest bottleneck, facts, real, honest, personal. One of the biggest things that I want you guys to understand, especially as we move into 2025, there are so many people, and you guys have heard me say this before, there are so many people who are copying other people's content, right? This could have easily been a piece of content where I just taught people the numbers for a VSL funnel. Do you think it would have been as effective if I would have just showed the how to run a profitable VSL funnel? Why or why not? Yep, it reads like a story. Let me ask you this. Do you guys trust that this is my content? Why or why not? It's very detailed. Now, the reason that I ask you guys that question is because this morning I was having a conversation with, one with one of my Lean on Laurel students, and we were going back and forth because I'm helping her put together this 3-part video series. And why this is actually relevant is because she asked the question, she said, Laurel, I feel like I'm giving too much away. And then I actually directed her to this specific post right here. And I said, read this post. I literally gave everything to where, like, if people read this post, they had everything that they needed in order to go and execute this. Why do you feel like, even though you guys right now, and Shelly, thank you for posting it in the chat. all of those 11 people who joined Lean on Laurel had everything that they needed in order to go and execute that on their own. Why do you think they did it? And Patricia, you just touched on something that I'm about to pull this together before we actually go into the exercise, because that's super important. She said, because we have seen other content from you, not just this post. Dana says, I call that self-selecting. 100% hit the nail on the head. There are so many people who read that post, and even though their numbers weren't exactly the same, they felt called out. They felt like I was talking to someone like them, right? One of the reoccurring themes that you guys are going to hear me talk about in these workshops that we do is that in every single piece of content that we do, we have to prove one thing. Because everyone that's sitting in this room right now, I guarantee your ideal clients have already paid someone some amount of money to solve that problem. Right? Kathy shook her head, yeah, because she knows what I'm about to say, because she's heard me say this before. Right? What do we have to prove in every piece of content? That this time will be different. Right? And so that post that I actually just went through proved why, if you've tried other ads programs, if you've tried other people who are trying to book more calls, I proved why this time could be different. I gave away the farm of, hey, this is a different strategy. This is a different tactic that's working right now. Right? And so that's what we need to happen inside these power posts. Okay. Now, what is the other thing that you may have noticed about that post? What's one of the other things that you noticed about that post? It was easy to read. It's detailed but short. No pictures. Right? Yeah, that's actually a good point. I didn't even use a photo. Show how this content can specifically work for someone reading. Absolutely. So another thing that I don't think anyone noticed here, it's actually the framework of a power content video. You know how I give you guys, there's a couple of different templates, the problem solver, the action taker, the belief builder. It's the same script as a power content video. Do you guys see how all of this is kind of working together? Some people like to read, some people like to watch videos, right? And so what we're going to talk about is really going back to what is it that we have to know about our audience and ourselves in order to actually get this thing to work. Because a lot of times whenever I'm helping my students out with content and I ask them, I'm like, what problem are we solving in this particular post? And they really want to go broad. Did you guys notice how niche that one post was? Like it was solving one very specific problem, right? And so Shelly, she just said, interesting, my audience definitely likes to read, but I also like building the invisible list with videos, right? Absolutely, right? And this works on any platform. Jason just asked if this could work with a photo on Instagram. Absolutely, right? The point that I really want to make here, though, is that this only was super effective because of what Patricia said. You guys have seen my videos. You've seen my whole ecosystem of content. As a matter of fact, it's funny. One of my Lean on Laurel students, Maggie, you might have seen her ads for her AI bestie. She's everywhere, right? And what's really cool is that on the comments, she keeps sending me screenshots in chat. Everyone's like, you must be following Laurel's Hot 7 strategy. You must be a student of Laurel. You might Laurel, 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 Laurel. And she was like, I am just amazed at how many people just from an ad see your stamp all over it. And I'm like, it's because of the ecosystem. Laurel didn't invent video ads. Laurel didn't invent retargeting. But most people sure as hell think of me whenever they see that strategy in the wild. They're like, oh, that person must be following Laurel's strategy. I'm not even the first person. I'm not even the 100th person. I'm probably like the 10,000th person to teach this strategy. But it's because I consistently stay in front of my audience that people see it as mine. It's not mine, right? This is something I learned from Eugene Schwartz like 20 years ago. This is nothing new that I invented. And so the lesson that we have to take away here is you can't just pick and choose which of the ecosystem that you want to, they all work together. Like some people are like, well, I only want to do power content. I only want to do this. Yesterday I had a Lean on Laurel student. He's like, man, he's like, you know what? He's like, I think I might turn off my ads. I was like, okay, give me some information. Why do you want to turn off your ads? He's like, well, my emails are converting so good. I was like, let's think about that for a minute. I was like, have you ever thought that your emails are converting because people are seeing your ads? And he was like, everything works together. And so like whenever you turn off one part of the ecosystem and you notice that something stops working, you're like, okay, you start to see how everything works together. Okay. So let's actually talk about how do we actually figure out what content to actually put into these posts. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to roll your eyes when we do this exercise. I promise every single time my Lean on Laurel students do this exercise with me, they always get something different. And for those of you guys who are going to see this exercise for the very first time, awesome. Welcome to the party, because this by far, guys, and I'm going to show you guys how this works incredibly well and how you can actually multiply this into multiple pieces of content, because you only have to do this exercise one time. Okay. So everyone got pen and paper? Cool. Okay. We first have to identify, as a matter of fact, I'm going to say the big problem that we solve for our audience, right? A lot of times it's a situation versus a problem. Okay. So for instance, my ideal clients are struggling to go past 2 to 3 times their return on ad spend with their VSL funnel. Okay. That's the situation that most of my ideal clients are in. Okay. Now I'll just go over this quickly because a lot of you guys have seen this, but I'll just refresh for those who may not have seen it or only seen it one time. When we're talking about our ideal clients, right? We've got 2 different types of clients. We've got our ceiling clients. These are the best of the best clients. And then we've got our floor clients, right? Our floor clients are the ones that barely make the requirements in order for us to work with them. We always want to create content that's in the center. We always want to avoid targeting people who are below the floor, right? So for instance, my floor clients, people have to have a validated offer and they have to have at least ads running. In order to work with me and Lean on Laurel, they have to have a validated offer and they have to have already launched ads. So anyone who's never launched ads, they're not going to be my ideal client, right? So I want to avoid marketing to those people. I want to market in between here. Everyone understand that concept? Awesome. Cool. Okay. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I know we've covered that before. So this is our ideal clients. Okay. Now, in order for people to be in this situation, right? There's a big problem here. A big problem here. And a big problem here, right? For those of you guys who are wondering what's inside the triangle, in between, it's the in between. Their range, it's the spectrum that's in between your floor clients and your ceiling clients. Make sense? That's the sweet spot, right? Because what is one of the things that you noticed as we went up that triangle? Your ideal clients are the smallest part of your ideal audience. Okay. So if we look at your ideal, right, which is your ceiling and your floor, right? These are the people that we do power content for. These are the ones that we do the direct offer ads. These are the 2 to 3% of your audience, and this is the 97 to 98% that we do power content to, right? This is where we start the conveyor belt. If you guys have gone through the ecosystem training, the boot camp, that's where they get on the conveyor belt. Okay, just to give you guys some context. So, in order to solve this situation for my clients, I have to solve 3 big problems for them, right? So the first big problem is they need an optimized book a call funnel. It's the first problem I have to solve, right? Because if they are not being able to scale beyond 2 to 3 times their return on ad spend, there's probably a place where we can optimize. So right now, you should be doing this exercise with me, right? What is the situation that your clients are in? What is the first big problem that you need to solve, right? If you have a fitness offer, right? The situation that you might solve for those people is you might help dads lose their 20 pounds of dad bod weight, right? That might be the situation that they're in. The first big problem might be they're not exercising. The second big problem might be diet. Their third might be mindset. Get where I'm going with this? Because we got to go further, right? So for me, my ideal clients, the first thing that I have to help them solve is they have to have an optimized book a call funnel. The second big problem is there's no ecosystem. And then the third is there's no retention and referrals. Okay. Now, most people would stop there. They would do content based on how do you optimize a book a call funnel? Well, there's going to be 3 to 5 steps underneath that big problem. So if someone doesn't have an optimized VSL funnel, the first thing that I'm going to look at is their close rate on their sales calls. If it's not 20%, that's what I'm going to help them do. If they are closing, what is their show up rate on their sales calls? If they got their show up rate, what percentage of their audience is filling out an application? What percentage of their audience is finishing the webinar? What percentage is their opt-in, right? These are all of the different steps that I have to help people do in order to solve the big problem of not having an optimized funnel. Does that make sense? Does everyone follow me here? I just want to kind of make sure that everyone's following. Okay, awesome. How many of you guys have seen me do this exercise before, right? But super, super important, okay? So you're going to do that for each of your big problems, okay? Because in order to write a post, like I just showed you guys, you have to be absolutely clear. You guys ready to go a little bit deeper? We're gonna do some advanced shit today. Are you guys ready for some advanced shit? As a matter of fact, I'm gonna take a little swig of that whiskey. Might be drinking by myself. I don't know today. Okay. But you guys ready to go? Can you guys handle some advanced stuff? Okay, cool. Awesome. I love seeing the smiles on your faces because you guys gotta have fun. We gotta have fun. Yesterday, how many of you guys joined the Facebook group that Molly Mahone and Onyx and Gal is doing, right? It's super fun. Whenever they first told me we were doing a Facebook group, I was like, oh, another Facebook group, right? But I am having so much fun watching everyone's predictions for, 2025. But one of the things that Molly Mahoney said in her video is that we need to have fun in our marketing. And I'm like, yes, because can you guys tell that I have fun? This never ever feels like work for me. And so you have to be able to fall in love with your marketing, right? It's the lifeblood of your business. You just have to be able to fall in love with your marketing. So I hope that I make your marketing fun, because otherwise you're not going to want to do it if it's not fun, right? No one wants to do videos if it's not fun. No one wants to do marketing if it's not fun. So I'm going to show you guys, because I think you guys can handle it. I'm going to show you guys an exercise I do with my private clients, okay? So this is the content Bible. Some of you guys have seen this before. If you are in Lean on Laurel or Momentum, we are going to be doing a lot of work inside this content Bible, so you got to fall in love with it. Okay, so we just did the visual, right? The big situation, and we broke it down into 3 big problems, okay? So what are the goals or the milestones of solving those problems, right? My goal when I get a client and they want to get that 2 to 3 times their return on ad spend and above, I sure as hell need to make sure they have an optimized book a call funnel. The mechanism that I use in order to do that is a VSL funnel. Now, a lot of you guys want to put the mechanism as your proprietary methodology. Your proprietary methodology is not the mechanism. Your mechanism is a thing, right? You know, someone the other day in Lean on Laurel messaged me, and they had put their mechanism as their proprietary technique, and they called it something fancy. I was like, what the hell is this? I don't know. Like, and they're like, oh, it's a meditation. I'm like, the mechanism is a meditation. It's not your super duper proprietary like method, right? So we have to be clear on what our mechanism is. And then I make them say, what's the big problem that this solves? There's no automated way to get appointments with ideal clients. The client knows they've hit this goal when this happens. Now, this is big, okay? We need to be able to identify how our client knows that they've hit a goal, okay? So that's goal number 1, right? Goal number 2 is they need an ecosystem, right? If you're sending a whole bunch of leads to a VSL, webinar, ebook, it doesn't matter, right? Any type of funnel you're sending leads to, if you don't have an ads ecosystem, you're going to have a whole bunch of black holes in a funnel, right? That's a problem. What is the mechanism that I'm using? A sequence of Facebook and YouTube ads. Notice I didn't say Laurel's ads ecosystem is the mechanism. The mechanism is a sequence of Facebook and YouTube ads. What is the problem that this solves? Black holes in the funnel. And then the client knows they've hit this goal when they're booking 10 plus additional calls outside of the VSL funnel. And then goal number 3, marketing system in place to get referrals, retention, mechanism used, CRM, email, SMS. Big problem this solves, leads are going cold after 7 days. And then the client knows they've hit the goal when this happens, they're getting 8 to 10 return on ad spend each month. So, couple of questions. Could the VSL funnel be a webinar funnel? Doesn't matter. Whatever this is my stuff. You guys have to put in your own answers here, right? Dana says, how does this work if you have an educational product? I have an educational product. Works the same. What's your, Dana, where are you? Let's actually, where's Dana? I see Dana. Unmute yourself, Dana. What's your educational product?
I help writers write addictive fantasy or romance novels.
It's amazing.
It is.
So you have to have a process, right? They have no
Yes.
book to book.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you would do it. So what does your framework look like? What's the first milestone?
The first milestone is we create their plan for how they're going to write the book. And then we go into plotting. I mean, that's what we go through on like when they're actually writing.
Yeah.
That's the structure.
How many phases and milestones are there in your process?
4
Okay.
to get the book done.
So what's the first milestone? They have a plan, you said?
Well, first thing I call it, they have to know their numbers. Like, what are their numbers? Are they aiming to do a single book, a series, or are they aiming to do a novella, a novel, so that we can identify how long they will be in the phase of writing?
Okay. So that's the first phase.
Mhm.
What's the second phase?
Plotting.
Okay, plotting.
Mhm.
Then what's the third phase?
Writing.
Okay, and then what's the fourth phase?
Editing.
Okay, cool. And so each of those is going to have its own mechanism. So if you let's just take the first one, right? So the goal number one is to have an exact plan, the genre of the book, the numbers that we need to hit and everything, right? What's
Hmm.
what's the mechanism that you use in order to get them there?
Well, you just said it's not a fancy thing, but I always call it, we call it our 3D plan. It's and then and in there we
But
have
what's the mechanism that you're using?
it's a workshop.
Okay.
Is that what
So
you mean?
it's a workshop to help them plan out everything. Cool.
Yes.
That's cool. It's a mechanism, right? But you
Or
see
a
how
workbook, if you want to say, like, it's a workbook and they can go through and fill out the fields. And
perfect. What is the big problem that that solves?
oh man, it solves knowing when you're done, being able to identify how long you're going to be in that phase, identifying a part of it even goes into like what are
Okay.
your reader
So
expectations.
and this is okay because this is how most people answer this question. You're
Okay.
telling me what it does, you're not telling me the problem it solves.
Okay, so it solves lack of clarity. It solves scheduling. It solves
Great.
property
That's all good. And so the client knows that they've hit that goal when what happens?
when they have their plan completed and they're ready to start writing and working off their novel.
Perfect. Right? So you see how that works?
Hmm.
Yep. So we have to know that, right? And then the second part of this, action step number two, we need to list each step to accomplish goal number one, right? So you know, when we were just drawing this out, my first step was I've got to fix their sales conversion rate, right? So that's the problem, right? If we go back to my iPad, I wrote if they're not closing 20% of their sales calls, right? We have to fix that. So the action step that I use to fix that is the case sales call framework. This works because it lays out the roadmap on the call so clients have complete clarity on the steps they need to take. The problem it solves is, well, the sales conversion rate is less than 20%. And then a resource to accelerate the process. Well, I can give them a template to lay out their own case framework in less than 5 minutes. Then remember, I said the next small problem I need to solve is if their show up rate is less than 50%, I'm going to give them a pre-call funnel. Why? Because it gives clients 3 to 4 valuable touch points with leads before the call. What do you guys notice about this exercise? Most people think their power content and their power posts and everything is up here. Your power content and your value bombs are all within the details that you're going to do for each of these steps. Does that make sense? The reason being is people only retain 10% of what we say in a video. So if people only retain 10% of what we say in a video, we want to make that video as specific as possible so that they remember the important stuff, right? If I do an entire video on how to optimize a book a call funnel and I cover all of this stuff in one video, what's going to happen? They're likely to get overwhelmed and not remember anything, right? But if someone watches this video or reads my post and it solves their problem, that's amazing, right? Does someone notice that what like it it pretty much sounds very familiar to the power post, right? A lot of this content that that I just went over, right? This was the problem for that client that I was talking about in my power post. So literally I just went and this was the action step that I wrote that post on. Okay? I'm going to introduce something some of you guys may have not watched the training yet. You will find the training at the most appropriate time. It's my mentor's stealth influence exercise. So there are more layers to this, right? If we do this entire exercise and there's 5 steps here, there's 5 steps here, that's 15 pieces of content, right? If we lay out all the steps for each of these, right, that's 15 pieces of content. Perfect for your top of funnel stuff. We're getting straight to the point and we're just giving them the information. But what do we know about humans when we give them information? They get stuck. They get overwhelmed. They have objections. They don't believe you, right? So this stuff is the basics for your top of funnel stuff. We're pulling people into our funnel. But what do we know about people? They're going to have time objections to getting that done, money objections, effort objections, and sacrifice objections. So what I can do is I can literally go through all 15 pieces of content and multiply it by 4 if I meet one objection from each column. This is why I call it the content Bible, y'all. Whenever you do this entire exercise, you come out with 1,280 pieces of content. It's more content than you will ever need, right? And so Mateo said, can you do this live? Absolutely. We're talking about power posts today. Remember that. But whether you're doing a piece of power content or you're doing a written post, it's the same thing. I literally just do written versions of my power content videos using the same frameworks. And what do you guys notice about the templates? That's very similar language to what's in this content Bible, right? So once you do the content Bible, it's like, remember that game we used to play Mad Libs when we were kids? You can literally just pick and choose and pull all of the stuff that you've already filled out. As a matter of fact, I teach my LOL students how to throw the content Bible into ChatGPT and have it do all the hard work for them. But here's the key. You have to know this. You cannot ask ChatGPT for this information. That's the issue. You cannot use ChatGPT to ideate this stuff. You have to know it because this is going to come directly from your clients' mouths. Mr. Mike.
Hey, Laura, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. So everything makes a lot of sense. The one challenge that I have with this exercise, because I can see the 3 big problems, I have all the smaller steps. In your specific niche, your clients and prospects understand pretty much the whole continuum from every single step of the problem. They understand, oh, I understand what a CTR is, what a conversion rate and the sales calls is, and so on.
Don't assume that. Most of my clients, like that, when they first start, they don't know what the hell that stuff even is. Like Renee is shaking her head. She's like, I don't know what that shit is. And I've been marketing my business for years and I have no idea what that stuff is. But why do you guys know that now? Because I've put out content educating you guys on what it is. And so it's our job as experts. This is why we do this exercise, because it forces us to put out information that to us seems stupid simple, but to our ideal clients, it's a foreign language.
Okay, so that's an important part because that's my challenge. If I teach them one small bite of information, I totally agree that they need like a small practical thing. But if they do not know why this is relevant, doesn't that mean that you need to do some sort of maybe pre-framing or pre-education saying?
That's what this entire exercise is all about, right? That's why it's important that you have to identify who's your ideal client and who's not your ideal client. That's why that triangle exercise is the very first thing that you have to do, because you have to determine, this is super important, where they are in the level of awareness, right? There's the people that are completely unaware. There's the people who are problem aware. There's people who are solution aware. Then there's the product aware. And then there's brand aware, right? Like you have to figure out, are my ceiling clients, how aware are they? And that's why it's important. Like, I know everyone rolls their eyes when we do the triangle exercise, but this is why we have to do that first because of the question that he just asked, right? Because we have to know where our ideal clients sit on that level of awareness. Does that make sense?
It does. Now, I don't know, maybe it's my case specifically, but my mechanism or my solution is so novel that nobody is aware of it because it's completely innovative and groundbreaking.
It's not.
You'd be surprised. I mean, people could understand it when I explain it, but they have never thought about it this way. They do not. This is like completely new for them.
Mike, everyone tells me that. Everyone like you, but that's why this exercise is important, because that's why it's important that we know what our mechanisms are. What are your mechanisms in your methodology?
So the three big steps is number one, they need to become aware of all the things that are
Right, but
important.
that's what the goal is. I'm just asking, what are your mechanisms that you're using?
Okay, so, correct. So we have goal, mechanism, and then problem solves. Correct. Those are the three boxes. So in this case, it's make a list of all the things that they appreciate about their relationship, pros and cons of staying or leaving, and then
That's not anything I haven't heard before.
correct. Another step is the Hollywood movie director trick is once you know what's important to you is describe it in a way so that any third party would know whether it's being fulfilled or not. Who's doing what when in a scene, like if you were a movie scene. Because for example, if you say somebody who's affectionate, what does that mean? Whereas if you say when he comes home, he comes and gives you a hug and holds my hand when we go on the street, then the second one is much more specific and allows you to know whether that's being fulfilled or not.
So I'm not understanding the question that you have. Because
So
everything you're telling me makes total sense. I mean, I work with a lot of people who do very similar things to what you do.
Okay, so let's say that I teach people, here's how to become really crystal clear on what's important to you in your relationship and give them that specific nugget.
Okay.
They may not be aware of why this is important in the whole grand scheme of things.
That's your job in the piece of content to do.
Okay, so you also need to add that piece, not only to teach them that specific piece, but tell them this is what I'm teaching you here. This is what fits in the grand scheme.
So that's why it says the problem it solves. That's why that box exists. Because if they don't know, you have to start with this. Like if you don't know the specific problem that solves, it makes it hard to be able to convince someone that they need a certain mechanism. Does that make sense? That's why this exercise is super important because it forces you guys to be clear, right? Because otherwise, if you're not clear on what you're actually using, no one gives a shit about anyone's proprietary methodology. I hate to tell you guys that no one gives a flying fuck about it. Like all people care about is this clear? I'll bring up, this is everyone knows why Trump won the election, right? Doesn't care what political side you're on. Trump spoke in the clearest, simplest third grade language that anyone could understand. Kamala, on the other hand, spoke very educated, and that was kind of her downfall. Doesn't matter which side you fall on, that's what happened. And it happens to a lot of marketers too. When you try to make yourself sound smart, you make your audience feel stupid and they leave. That's 100%. And that's why it's important that we get crystal clear on these mechanisms and being able to identify what problems that you solve, because that's all our audience knows, right? So for instance, right, so I have a student in Lean on Laurel, and this morning she handed me some copy, and it was like, you're overwhelmed with work, and then you go home and you're overwhelmed with your family being demanded from you. I'm like, what does that even mean? But if you say, do you feel like you have two families? One where your coworkers make you put out all of the fires they start. They take up hours of your day with meetings that you don't need to be in. And then you go home and your kids demand that there's food on the table by 6 p.m. and you're tired. Do you see the difference in the language and being able to explain a problem in a clear and concise way? Do you guys see the difference? That's how clear we need to be.
Laura, if I may, because it may help other people as well. The big takeaway that I got here is that if you are very clear on the problem you solve and you bring it up to them, they will understand why it's important for them to pay attention and what you provide to them is valuable.
Yes, because your hook is based on that problem.
Okay. That
right?
helps.
Like if you look at if you look at your power content or your power post, again, we could use those interchangeably. What do we always start with? Identifying the problem so that people say, this is me and but we also need to remember be polarizing to the people who will never watch this video, right? We don't want people watching our videos. We don't want people reading our content that will never buy from us. It's a waste of our ad spend. Yeah, so the hook can be based on the desire too, but more oftentimes than not, there's always a problem that's preventing them from getting that desire. And the problem is the pain that will pull them over the line. But yes, you can focus on a desire. Most people can't articulate the desire as strong as they can articulate a problem. That's the issue with trying to do desired based marketing. Yeah, the high intent prospect identify more with the desire. Yeah, can say that. And that's understanding that the sophistication level of your audience. Awesome. Cool. So, right. So now we've gone from 15 pieces of content to times 4, which is like what, 60 pieces of content. Then if you do 3 of those, that's 120 pieces of content. So I would literally do this. So let's say I was doing that application. So I'm going to do let's just say the sales conversion rate, right? Here's how to up your sales conversion rate from 10% to 20%. Well, there's going to be time objection. So, here's how to increase your call closing rate by 10%, and it'll only take you 5 minutes of work a day. Right? Then you got your money objection, effort objection. How easy is this going to be? Then you got your sacrifice. What do I have to sacrifice in my life in order to do this? Right? Like you can say you could do this over your lunch hour. If you still have a full-time job, you can do the training over your lunch hour, right? There's all of these different things that you can do in order to, but again, we have to know sacrifice objections, effort objections, money objections, and time objections, right? Then, because people digest things in different ways, we've got the analytical. That was what you guys saw, right? If you look at my post that I showed you guys, it was analytical. I went through the numbers, but I could also tell that story from a client standpoint, which it kind of had some story elements, right? A lot of you guys loved the story element. So it had some analytical, it had some aspirational. Also, you could do it from an actionable. Now, most people are doing content from an actionable standpoint. That's the content, in my opinion, that's the most copyable, right? People copy how-to videos all the time. In my opinion, when you start to get into the analyticals, here's what I did, here are the numbers, it's so much easier to actually get people to understand it. And so this is analytical, aspirational. So now we've got 4 more multipliers of levers to pull. So by the time that you do this entire content Bible, and again, if you haven't watched the stealth influence exercise, it is in phase 1 in the retargeting section. You'll be able to have a better understanding of the trust profiles, which are the actionable and all of that fun stuff, and the time objections and all of that fun stuff. But we have to be able to understand this stuff at this level to be able to write power posts. Now, inside the $7 program, I made a library of a ton of power posts. Did you guys find it? It's like I'm still putting stuff in there. It's in the library. There's all different types, so you could actually see variations in my power posts. Danny, I'm going to get to as many questions here in the next 5 minutes as I can.
Hi, just for clarity. So we have the situation, we have goals, and each goal has like 4 or 5 problems that you solve, and it's broken down to steps, and each step has a mechanism that's a tangible asset that you can give them, like the value bomb, right? Am I
So
correct?
the mechanism is what you're using to do that.
To show them how to do that, correct?
Well, no, your mechanism is what you use, right? If you're trying to get someone to lose weight, a burrito is a mechanism, right?
Got it.
Is a mechanism. Strength training is a mechanism.
And like, trying to figure out some of these macro based meal plans, it's a calculator, correct?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
All right. And like going out to eat, I give them 3 steps to pick the cleanest food on the restaurant menu, correct? Like that, right?
Yeah. So that would be, the mechanism would be a free guide.
Got it. So basically mechanisms are,
so many people complicate what the mechanism is because they want it to be something super fancy. But a mechanism is
No.
like a Google Doc, you know, a push-up, a burrito, like those are mechanisms.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, like if you're looking at this exercise up here, there should be nothing proprietary in these blanks. Like anyone who has the problem that you're trying to solve should look at this and be able to understand every word of it. Katya.
Hey, yeah, so for the objections, where would you put them inside the power content or power offer? In a hook or promise of value, or where would you?
Yeah, I like to put all of the objections inside the hook
Okay,
without doing the thing that they don't want to do. Here's how to increase your call conversion rate without spending hours watching videos or something like that.
got it. Okay, thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Matea.
Hey, how you doing? Nice to officially meet you. First time in here. I know we've been chatting a
Hey,
bit back and
welcome.
forth.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you. So I was actually spoke to you a bit about that content Bible. There's a lot of good frameworks in there. The only thing that I think lacks clarity in my mind is like how do you piece it all together? Because like you said, there's 128 different possibilities and outcomes. So do you have a framework where it's like stitch goal here, frame it in this angle? Like how do you actually pull all this shit and then put it into unique pieces of content?
Yep. So you use the templates inside the program. So if you just follow like there's the problem solver, there's the action taker, the belief builder. You literally just do it like Mad Libs. Like it literally just tells you step by step like what you can do and how you can write stuff.
Okay. And the solution, problem to solve, all that comes from the content Bible. Why it's not working.
Big problem it solves. Yep.
Okay.
Problem it solves. Yep. But
Cool,
you should
appreciate
know
it.
that, right? What are they currently doing to try to solve that problem? And this just comes from knowing the information from our ideal clients, right?
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Great question. We'll kick things out with Miss Bernadette, and then me and my momentum and lean on Laurel. We'll go to our other Zoom. But Miss Bernadette, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Sorry, my video isn't on.
It was on. I saw you a while ago.
Yeah, something's going on. It was just that document that you flashed up. I can't find it in the portal.
Are you talking about the content Bible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, I'll get that to you guys. Right. There you go.
Okay.
And by the way, that's a resource that I don't have in the $7 program. So those of you guys who are live on this call, you guys get it because you showed up.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Sorry.
Everyone else has to manually put all of that stuff in and build their own document.
Ah, you're very kind. Thank you, Laurel.
You're very well. That was easy. Easy enough. Well, guys, did you guys get a lot of value out of this today? But you guys see like how all of my stuff fits together. Like I'm not recreating the wheel whatsoever. Like if I'm going to do a piece of power content, I'm going to write a written version of it, right? You would even probably do power content videos, ask ChatGPT to transcribe it for you if video is easier for you, and then vice versa, right? Don't overcomplicate stuff. Like as long as you're doing one piece of content every single day of solving one person's problem and you just stuck to that strategy, you'd be worlds ahead of where everyone else is, I promise. But it's really getting down to really knowing who your ideal client actually is. And I'm going to end the call with this one thing. And I actually talked to Rhonda about this, I think earlier today or last night. One of the things that Nick told me is that a lot of times people try to start by being impactful, right, with their audience. They pick who their audience is going to be. But actually, you find your impact through frequency. And then once you are doing things enough, you find your intensity, your own spin. Then you find your impact. And I'll actually walk you guys through how that actually worked out for me. So whenever I first started, I was still working in television. I picked Phoenix brick and mortar businesses that's who I wanted to work with. But through the frequency of me doing content from a framework, I found my intensity. I was like, ooh, I'm going to develop this value bomb strategy, right? I just followed the video training that I had followed long before whenever I was making commercials and television. I just followed that framework, right? The promise of value, that's stuff I learned from Graham Newell back in 2002. But through doing the headline promise of value and all of that from television commercials, I went live for 90 days and I'm like, fuck, no one's engaging with me. I need to get more people, more reach. By doing that, I found my intensity. I found my own unique spin. Well, what if I give away something in these videos? That was my intensity, but I found that through the frequency, right? And then through my intensity, Mr. Chad Thibodeau, who is one of Russell Brunson's funnel builders, found me and was like, hey, would your strategy work for the online marketing space for a webinar? I was like, what's a webinar? But you guys see how that happens? And so a lot of you guys right now, you might think that you know who your ideal clients are, but once you start doing my strategy, find the frequency, right? If you don't jive with my template, push through it, because through your frequency, you're going to find your intensity and you're going to be able to start moving things around. But a lot of times people move things around too soon and it just messes up their frequency, because then they have to think too much. But if you can just go live every day for 90 days with my structure, you're going to find your own style. You're going to find your own intensity. And through that, you're going to find your tribe. And I will say this, I am so happy that I found you guys, or that you guys found me, right? Because when I first set out, you guys were not my, most of you guys sitting in the room were not my ideal clients. But now I'm like, hell, this is the best thing I ever did, right? Because I enjoy spending all this time with you guys. So yeah. So hopefully that gave you guys a little something extra to think about. I will see my Momentum members here on the other Zoom link, and I will see everyone else in the $7 program. I'll have this replay up for you guys in the replay vault as fast as humanly possible. Make sure before you leave, grab that Google Doc up there. I'm going to give you guys about 10 seconds to grab the Google Doc in the comments, and then we're off. Bye, guys. You're very welcome.